let me just say, clearly salary and benefits are the biggest cost factor in schools, but there are two other things that I'm curious about in terms of how this plays out in your model. Space, like do you end up mixing classes among grades? I mean, if they're all working at computers, do they need to actually be only with their class, separate from other classrooms? And I guess the other question is around technology and what the investment in technology needs to be.
Well, we require that our students bring their own laptops. And a good laptop nowadays with everything that you could possibly need, including webcam and Wi-Fi and all that, you can get a really good one for about $400. So, I mean, that is an additional cost to parents, but most of the kids who come to interview have a laptop that is sufficient anyway. So that's part of it. In terms of our own, what we've spent on technology, it really hasn't been that much. I mean, we opted against smartboards for various reasons, which I could go into at length. But so we have screens that we hook up our computers to, and that works pretty well. And we spend a bit on the Wi-Fi system, and we spend a bit on our portal, which is sort of our student management and learning management system, which we really built to last. Another thing which I didn't mention is that we're all open source, so we really want what we've done to be out there to help other people. So the idea is that the portal can be replicated, can be built on, so that if other people need to use that sort of thing, they can do that as well. So we did save some money on that as well. But all in all, we haven't spent all that money. In terms of space, some of what the students do is online. We have a large room called the Common Room, where the students do, I'd say, about 30% of their work, all their sort of self-paced classes, their math, a large part of their science, their foreign language, plus work that they're working on, together in groups or whatever for their English class or history classes, all that's sort of done in the Common Room. So that's a nice, large space where they spend a fair amount of time. What we did is we took two sort of normal classrooms and knocked down the wall. So we made that into a comfortable space. The other large space we have is the big midrash, which I suspect is not terribly different from the physical structure of that in any other. It's a nice big room with tables, a couple of couches, bookshelves, but it's not. There's nothing terribly different about it. And then our classrooms are fairly normal classrooms. They're probably not as heavily used right now as they are in a lot of schools, but I think our space is going to fit us for a couple of years now. One thing that we did change about our classroom space is we don't have desks, lined up in front of the teacher because we don't believe in that kind of teaching. So we have sort of conference tables where the kids sit around so they can really learn with the staff instead of sort of being instructed by it. And it doesn't change the cost.
Rachel, so does this kind of learning afford different kinds of access to government funding?
So that's an additional sort of piece that wasn't addressed really just by cost reduction. It relates very much to what we were speaking about this morning. And in fact, when I was looking at the booklets that were in front of us this morning, I thought the next stage of that booklet is to map state by state what's available online for schools to take advantage of. And this is very much a state-by-state issue. Some states are very far ahead of what private schools can take advantage of. And in general, what's available in some states, including New York and New Jersey, where many of the day schools are located, are a little bit behind. But the way it works is that some states have virtual charter schools. So the same way that a student can enroll in a brick-and-mortar charter school, a student can enroll in a virtual charter school. So again, depending on where you're located, states differ in what the access availability is to private school students. Some students can enroll in individual courses. For instance, in Florida, Florida day school students can enroll in almost any course they want in the Florida virtual school, regardless of the fact that they're not a full-time student in that school. In some states, you must enroll in the virtual charter hook, line, and sinker. You can take all your general studies through that virtual charter school. And obviously, in some states, there's no access at all. And so, number one, I would encourage, we are in the process, I hope, at Avi Chai, in beginning to map what the United States looks like. There is a good report online that's called Keeping Pace. It's put out by the International K-12 online learning that's called Nicole. And it does a state-by-state analysis of what online learning looks like in your state. It does not yet have the layer of private school access to it. It's for public school world. And we're looking to hopefully create that map for the day school community so that people can better understand what's available in their state. And I think the second area of work, again discussed this morning, is advocacy in this area. It's possible that we should take a role in states where there is an active advocacy now to promote virtual charters, because those will, hopefully, if we get involved now, we can set them up in a way where private school students can have access to them. And that will be in the long run, again, that can benefit.
It occurs to me, are there any private companies that are encouraging this kind of technological learning that are actually making, that have grants for schools in this area?
So, I don't have grants specifically. There have been. But there are companies that have begun to see our market as a potential market and have reached out to various institutions that are even here in the room and said, we'd like to work with you on creating a coalition of schools that would buy a class at a rate. Some vendors have even said that they would be ready to adapt courses to suit our market, if that's appropriate to school or not. Because obviously when you're going on to an online course, right, you're taking their curriculum as is. And so for some schools that might be an issue, whether it's biology, whether it's the fact that your students might be sitting in a public classroom virtually. But some vendors have begun to see us as a niche market that they are interested in servicing.
Just one other question for you. You have a sense, can you paint a picture for us of what in the Jewish day school world currently exists in terms of, the various models that are out there, who's doing what's actually being tried, if people are curious about, looking at models that are already up and running? Obviously, besides
yes. So actually, I hope everyone who's in the room at a school received, we actually just sent out a survey from Avi Chai to do exactly that, get a better lay of the land of what is currently being done in day schools across North America. And so I hope once we have that data, enough people respond to be able to share it with the field. We're also supporting a number of different initiatives throughout the day school community to get the models into schools and hopefully, again, to research them and watch them and document them to be able to share them. So I'll just talk about a few of them. One, and some of the schools here are involved in this. There's a project that's being run through the Jewish Education Project and JESNA. That's called the Digital J-Learning Network. It's right now a network of 18 schools, mostly high schools, but 2 working middle schools are involved in the program. These are established day schools that have decided that they wish to experiment with online learning. Most are experimenting, I would say, around the edges. They quote-unquote not service students. We need a language course, we need an AP course, we need a remediation course, and they're putting pockets of students into these classes. The schools are participating in professional development over the course of the year to learn now what it means to assess how the program is going in your school, how do you choose a provider, what should the next stage look like, and hopefully, if this year goes well, it's possible that the next year will go there. At the same time, we are looking to support new models of schools, such as the pre-K sector and Shiva. And we've already, besides those schools, both in New Jersey, a few schools in other areas, Baltimore, Silver Spring, Boston, regulators have begun to talk to us about new models of schools that they wish to just try and open. And again, we hope that the community at large will be watching those to see how they go. Do they really realize what things? Do they provide a good education, etc.? I would also say that one thing we have to be, so not that's sort of what's being done already. As we move forward, I think we're hoping that the schools that do try and do this, as well as the institutions that might start to provide Judaic studies online, right? We haven't talked about that yet. There's not really a lot of Judaic studies online available. One of the other things that we'd like to try and see is the development of Judaic studies online. The field has to be mindful of what's being learned in the non-Jewish world. There's not a lot of data about this kind of learning, even in the general world already. We have to be reading and paying attention and looking at standards that are being created for what does it mean to be a good online teacher? What does it mean to develop a good online course? So I'm hoping that, again, this will be the beginning of the dialogue in that area. Just put in a plug. There are a number of sessions at the upcoming A-School conference that's happening next month around this area. A few experts in the area of blended learning will be at the conference, and it's another way of furthering the conversation.
Lauren, before we open this up to questions, I imagine that you did a lot of research in preparation for opening up the school, and so now from the vantage point of having looked at how to enable this to come to fruition and sitting in your school on a day-to-day basis, I'm curious what your perspective is on what the potential is for the Facebook world, at large, for the Orthodox Facebook community.
The potential is two ways in which it can help. I think for new places like ours, it's just wonderful. I think that there's so much out there, largely outside of the education world, that we can take advantage of and use and apply and really make new schools that are wonderful. But I think also for established schools, it's harder because it's disruptive. If you use more online things, it's going to affect your faculty. It's going to affect your structure and your space and all that. So it is disruptive, but I think it really is a way of seeing your way out of this affordability crisis because you can bring costs down. You don't have to do everything you can. You don't have to adopt a whole model. But as Rachel said, you can take a piece here and a piece there and really help on the margins, help improve the offerings and bring costs